couple things here in the background as we're getting ready to open up the room at 7. But
Okay.
Momma Bear, do you go by Patty or Patricia?
Patty.
Or Patty? Okay, Patty, whenever we start the program, I'll introduce everyone and welcome everyone, go through a couple different bits of business at the beginning, thank our sponsors, etc. And then I'll hand it off to Pete so that he can introduce you and let you guys sort of take it away. And I'll just sit on the back end. I have the PowerPoint ready to go.
Oh, okay.
Let me share it real quick here. So you guys should be able to see that. We have this picture. I don't know if any of these are in chronological order.
Well, not really. Not really.
Okay, so if there's anything here
Every day seemed like the same day. So.
Okay. Anything in here that I figured those all went together.
Yeah.
With the explosion.
Right. You got it.
Great. All right. So I'll pop back to the beginning here and stop my share.
That looks pretty good, Sean.
Fantastic.
I think from now on, when I send photos to you, I will not only explain what you're looking at, but I'll put them in order for you.
Okay, that's not a problem. I just kind of, and if I'll run that on the back end, Pete, if you want to, at any point you want to say, hey, pull that pick up or whatever, just show my name and I'll be here.
Okay. All right.
Let's see here, 2 minutes. Okay.
Can I get a glass of water real quick?
Sure. Go. I like her house.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love the woodwork.
I'm in order for you.
Okay, that's not a problem. I just kind of love the woodwork. I'm going to pull everything up here on social medias. So in case anyone has a question from either of those areas.
Is that water or vodka?
Shh. No, I'm actually on a keto diet right now.
Oh.
What is a keto diet?
No carbs.
Oh, that would be possible for me.
It's been a challenge, but it's actually I'm actually a good thing. It's been good.
So what do you eat?
A lot of vegetables, a lot of meat. I'm a coffee drinker, so that didn't bother. It's just getting the sugars out and the simple carbs.
Now that doesn't include pizza, does it?
Nope.
I'm gonna go ahead and start the music and let everybody in.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to A Veteran Story with Pete Mecca for Thursday, April 14th. This is the Veterans Breakfast Club. My name is Sean Hall. I'm the Director of Programming with the VBC. Todd has the night off. He is at his, I believe his niece's art show. Sent me some pics. She's got some talent. So he's got the night off. And you guys are stuck with Pete and I. I'm going to introduce Pete here in a minute and get to our awesome guest for the evening for an evening of, I think, really interesting stories. Appreciate you all joining us. But first, before we do that, I want to go over some, let's see here. We're going to pull up my wonderful handy dandy PowerPoint. And we're going to thank some sponsors because they have been rock stars for the VBC lately. Truly. First is D&D Auto Salvage. We really appreciate them supporting us, not only just our live programming, but the podcast that I run as well. And I'll get to that in a second because we had a really interesting episode this past week. But D&D Metal Recycling and Auto Salvage began as a small hauling and used auto parts operation in the Pittsburgh area in the late 1970s and has grown into a full-service metal recycling company with 2 locations in Lawrenceville and Tarentum. D&D accepts all types of metal, both ferrous and non-ferrous, that may be generated by industrial manufacturing, construction, and demolition, small commercial entities, as well as individual customers. They have a wide variety of material handling equipment and are capable of managing any job in a timely, efficient manner. You can contact them for quotes and availability at D&Dautosalvage.com. That's D&D autosalvage.com. I'm going to put their link into the chat in case you have some metal you'd like to recycle. Boy, this is taking me back to my acting days. Feels like I'm, doing this for the radio. And the next is Tobacco Free Adagio Health. These guys are great. I just had a chat with them this past week. They are dedicated to reducing and preventing tobacco use and getting the word out about quitting smoking and the hazards along with smoking. They're all about health. So they want people to quit, and they have classes, they have nicotine replacement therapy and a popular quit line, which is 1-800-QUIT-NOW. They also educate people, children especially, about tobacco use from cigarettes, cigars, pipes, chew, snuff, and other nicotine products like vaping. If you didn't know how bad vaping was, you're going to want to watch my next podcast, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But we had a program manager on from Tobacco Free Adagio Health come on to talk about the programs. And boy, I didn't know how bad vaping was. You get from a cigarette like 2 milligrams or something because you're burning a lot of it. Vaping, you're getting like 51 milligrams of nicotine straight in. Yeah, it's not good for you. But finally, Tobacco Free Adagio Health advocates for public and private policies that ensure healthy places to live, work, and play. You can learn all about them and their programs at tobaccofree.adagiohealth.org. We thank both of them for being a sponsor. If you are not a member of the VBC, please go to our website, veteransbreakfastclub.org. Right at the top, you can see Become a Member. It's $36 for a whole year. You get 4 free magazines. This was the most recent one. A great magazine. Really, from front to back, I hear nothing but good reviews, and that's not me just tooting VBC's horn. I'm very proud of this magazine that we put out to all of our members. So please join us as a member and support the programming that we continue to bring every week. But speaking of bringing it every week, we are not here this coming Monday. I think that's our first Monday off. Todd finally gave me a Monday off. We get a Monday off this coming Monday. I think it's the 18th. We will not be on Zoom that night. So if you're looking for us, that's our little Easter break. We'll be back the following Monday. So spread the word. And the Scuttlebutt. This past week, I host our podcast. You can watch it on YouTube. You can listen to it while you're driving. Please download it. This past week was the season 5 finale. I can't believe we've done 5 seasons already. But Shakespeare and veterans. I just mentioned earlier that I'm an actor. I used to act a lot. And I thought it would be a really interesting idea to talk to 2 Shakespeare savants. There at the bottom, you see there, Lisa Ann Goldsmith. I've known her for many years. And Owen Thompson on the right, who I got to meet through this podcast. But they host a podcast called The Bardcast. And they know everything there is to know about Shakespeare. Well, if you didn't know, Shakespeare wrote a lot about the military, a lot about veterans. And in the top right is Billy Jenkins. He is a Marine Corps veteran and an actor. And we had a really awesome chat just about the Shakespearean canon and a lot about all the characters that are involved in it. What's the best military play? It's a really interesting conversation, about 60 minutes long, so it won't take up a lot of your day, but I highly recommend that. And the next one coming out this coming Monday will be with Tobacco Free Adagio Health, which I recommend that as well. We have U.S. Navy Vietnam veteran Don Nemchek, who used to be a smoker and then quit. He comes on to talk a bit about what the smoking lamp was lit and all of the terms from the military about smoking. Is a really cool conversation, which I think you'll all enjoy. But make sure you check that out. As for, let's see here, I want to make sure that, Tuesday. So yeah, we don't have a Monday night Zoom program, but we do have an in-person breakfast at Christ United Methodist Church. The address there is 44 Highland Road. Today is the deadline to RSVP for this. So if you haven't RSVP'd and you'd like to come, make sure that you either shoot me an email, I'll put my email in the chat, or give us a call at the VBC, make sure that your name's on the list, or just show up because we'll probably say, come on in anyway. But April 19th at 8:30 a.m., it's exactly like Zoom. You get breakfast, you get a great program, veteran stories. It's awesome. I highly recommend it. But that's pretty much all the announcements I have. Thank you for suffering through all that, everyone. I'm going to hand it off to Pete here for your show because this is your show. And you can introduce Patty, our incredible guest tonight. And thank you so much, Patty, for joining us. And thank you, Pete, for hosting.
All right, Sean, thank you very much. Well, folks, tonight I do have Lieutenant Colonel Patricia Momma Bear Justice as my guest. We will get into her nickname later in the interview. Momma Bear, you and I were talking a little bit about Ukraine, and I mentioned Latvia and the gentleman that I knew from Latvia. He's with us tonight. Vis Kaminis, Lieutenant Colonel Vis Kaminis, say hi.
Evening.
Glad to have you, Vis. And one of your favorite people I know is with us, Tommy Clack.
Awesome. Hi, Tommy.
Yeah. Hey, Tom. Good to see you. Good to see you. All right. Now, before we get started, I do want to ask you this. It's a little bit personal, but how do you do that?
Do what?
Every time I see you, Patty, you're better looking.
You're sweet. Thank you.
All right. All right. Well, let's get started with this. Your father worked on the secretive Manhattan Project during World War II, developing the atomic bomb. Tell us a little bit about your father and your childhood before graduation from high school.
Well, the background basically is that my father was quite a bit older before I was born. So basically, when he was in New York, he was a metallurgical engineer. So during World War II, every time he would try to get into a service, they would always kick him back. Everyone would have a card and they would have a certain code. And the code basically told the recruiter, you cannot become any military member. Wow. So he tried, but he was a little bit older as well. So he went back to, it was called General Steel at the time. And so in the lab, they got many, many different types of elements, which they've never seen before. They didn't know what it was. They only knew that they had to do increment parts in the lab, and that was it. And it, of course, it was secret. So after Hiroshima went off, then it was that aha moment. They were part of the Manhattan Project. Then, of course, everyone was told about it. Then after that, he became a manager at a steel company. And unfortunately, unions were pretty rough. And when my mother got a sympathy card, that was it. So basically, my dad said, that's it. We're going to Mexico City. I've gotten a great offer there and going to run another steel mill. And then that's where, lo and behold, I showed up. So at the age of 8, we finally moved back to the United States after the devaluation of the peso took over. And obviously, Dad didn't want to lose any money. So we moved here to the United States. We moved quite a bit. He was a consultant for other steel mills and companies. And then he finally retired at the age of 75.
Were you bilingual?
Yes, my first language was Spanish.
Oh.
But as you all know, if you don't use it, you'll lose it.
Yeah.
But coming up here to the States, though, my mom was quite not disturbed, but a little bit frustrated because myself, I'm a twin, my brother as well, had such a thick Spanish accent. But once we got to Florida, especially Miami, the thought of that was gone. So pretty much we acculturated pretty well here in the United States. But we finally ended up in California.
Okay. Where did you go to high school?
Riverside Poly High in Riverside, California.
Riverside, California. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, after high school graduation, you attended the New Mexico Military Institute.
That's correct.
Tell us about your experiences there and your working life at Piedmont Hospital up until the day that the Twin Towers fell.
All right. Well, in high school, I joined JROTC. I always liked what I saw when I was in 9th grade, and then I joined in 10th grade. Academically, I was the second valedictorian of my graduating class. So I received a scholarship through NMMI and through JROTC. So I decided to go through New Mexico Military Institute. Unfortunately, though, during advance camp, it was a night maneuver over at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and I blew out my knee.
Oh.
So needless to say, I lost my ROTC scholarship, but they let me stay in there and received a AA out of it. Then after that, then went to Mount St. Mary's College, which was an all-girls school, because my mother decided that I lost all femininity because of NMMI. But that was okay. It got me centered back a little bit. After that, then I received a BA in business administration. And then after a little soiree with Northrop Electronics there at Hawthorne, the Cold War ended and I needed to find a new job or a new career. So that's how I landed at Piedmont Hospital. After I received my ADN, my associate degree of nursing. And there at Piedmont Hospital, I worked out of the ambulatory center.
Oh.
So I'm an operating room nurse, trauma nurse. And when you mentioned when the towers fell, I had just finished doing a procedure and I was walking a patient out and everyone stood there watching the TV.
Oh.
Watching the towers go down.
Wow.
Right.
You were at Piedmont for like 11 years, I believe. Is that correct?
11 years. That's correct.
Okay.
And then, yeah. So during that time, after the towers fell, I received a postcard from the Army Nurse Corps.
All right. So the Army suddenly decided they wanted your nursing expertise. Okay, to heck with the knee.
Right.
At what age did you receive your commission, if you don't mind me asking? Plus, tell us about your early assignments as an Army nurse.
I received my direct commission when I was 39 years old.
Wow.
And then when I finally got into a unit in Georgia, I was 40. It took about a year for processing during that time. So my first assignment was with the 3297th United States Army Hospital in Augusta, Georgia. That's where I took my OBC, all the training, and so on and so forth. Then 2 years later, was mobilized to Brooke Army Medical Center, and I was there for 18 months. And this is when we did the Iraqi war. Then after that, 10 years after that, I went through many different units, even to a combat support hospital, and then finally to a forward surgical team that was situated in San Antonio, the 228th. And at the time I was up for a promotion, but unfortunately the combat support hospital that I was in Georgia did not have a slot for a major position. So they said, well, we can give you the major promotion, but under a caveat. We need to deploy you as well. So I decided that, hey, why not? Let's go and see what's going on. So there I was in Afghanistan.
Now, didn't you return to Piedmont Hospital after your assignment to Brooke?
I'm sorry, say again?
Didn't you return to Piedmont Hospital for a while?
No, actually, after I left Piedmont, I went to Emory University Hospital.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I left Emory under that Family Care Act and Military Care Act. So actually, I never returned back to Emory.
Okay. Let me ask you, what was it like going from a military hospital to a civilian hospital?
Let's say it was the military hospital, and the deployment itself was major leagues. I'm sure everyone can attest to that. Going to a civilian hospital was the minor leagues. The hurriedness day and night, patient care, day and night. In military hospitals, the only one I can vouch to is Brooke Army Medical Center. They take care of their soldiers. And they
As they
actually
should.
take care of the vets as well.
As they should.
Right. So
Okay.
out here, no.
Yeah. All right. Tell us about your promotion to major, and you went to FOB, Forward Operating Base Shank, better known as Rocket City, in Afghanistan, a well-earned nickname. Tell us about that.
When I was finally able to get my major on my chest, I was in the middle of SRP in Grand Prairie, Texas, and it was out in the parking lot. So I got my promotion out in the parking lot during SRP before we left.
Okay.
It was good. It was good. It was one of those things that we had to do. And then after that, there we went to Afghanistan.
Why do they call it Rocket City?
Basically, we were RPG'd every day, usually in early morning, sometimes in the evenings, but not much. It was usually in the early mornings. I guess that was our wake-up call instead of using alarms. But I was there 11 months, and I made a journal, and I would count how many hits we would have every single day. And my count up till the time I left was 278 times.
Hooah.
Yeah.
Keep your head down.
Right.
All right. Tell us about the Afghan men and you being in a military uniform packing a weapon.
Well, at the time, it was between 2011, 2012. So it was basically the height of the Afghan war, but yet we had to integrate Afghans into the FOB. It was a coin operation, pretty much. And for us as females, we had our weapons, wearing pants, and literally looking into their eyes, because that's what we do. And especially for a medical unit, I have to look at them. I have to talk to them, but I obviously had to wear a weapon. And their culture does not allow that. Women do not look at them, especially for men. We have to, they said, you can't see us. We got to keep our heads down, all that baloney. And I'm sorry, we were on the FOB. There was an American flag flying there. So for me and for the rest of my FST, I only had another female with me. The rest were male. And we just had to press on. And
Did you get any flack from the Afghans?
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
They would look at us. They would spit once in a while at us. And especially the ones coming in who were injured. I had a known suspect that got hurt really bad, and it was through his jaw. And I was the OR nurse. I had to put him on that table along with everybody else, and then strap him down and shave his beard off. Oh my goodness. Talk about the hatred that exuded out of this man. But it is what it is. But we took care of him. That's what we have to do.
Some experience. You describe your base hospital as a mass unit. Okay. Tell us about the hospital, your shift work, the medical staff you work with, and the type of casualties you took.
Well, first of all, to put context in, it's a forward surgical team. Okay. So basically, there's only 3 areas. When the soldier comes in on the first area, this is where we evaluate and assess their injuries. And this is where we start doing their IVs, assessing where they're injured. Even though the combat medic does a great job out in the field, we still then advance that assessment. So that's called ATLS. This is where the trauma surgeon is there, the combat medics are there, and we start assessing, as well as the anesthetists. Okay, so if they need to go down, they tube them right there. Now, once we figure out what's going on in the ATLS, then the surgeon will say, go to surgery, or we can put him somewhere else. So being on that FOB, we were the second point of contact from the fields. So most of the time they had surgeries. So then they would go into my operating room. And this is where there are 2 beds, 1 OR nurse, myself, and then my scrub techs. So if we had 2 people come in and the surgeon, because we always had 2 surgeons, say, we need both in there, then I'd be in the middle as a manager telling my techs what to do. But most of the time, if there was one, then I was involved with that one. And then once we stabilized, got what we needed done with our soldier, then they went to the recovery area, where basically they didn't recover for hours. We would package them up. It was like a mini ICU. So we would package that soldier or EPW and then call the birds in, so they would fly him up to Bagram. And that was the next level of care. So no one stayed. The longest stay was 24 hours when we would have sandstorms or they were stabilized enough. But if they needed to get out as soon as possible, then we would use the PJs in order to get them out.
I guess we, especially the veterans, war veterans, we know, but sort of describe some of the casualties that you saw.
From major IEDs, vehicle-borne, pressure plates, snipers. We also had a lot of burn victims. We also took care of children that would step on the dum-dums that the Russians left behind.
Oh, wow.
Or the Afghans killing them or wounding them as well. So we had from young children all the way up to the elderly. And then for our soldiers, as you all know, would be the shots, the pressure plates, the IEDs, going out there doing their missions. So we saw a lot. We saw a lot. Mm-hmm.
What did you think of your medical staff?
For me, they were the perfect storm. But we trained 3 months out prior to going to deployment. So we would learn our timing. We would learn each other's ticks. We only had 13 people.
Yeah.
That was it.
Let me ask you this. What was the average age of the soldiers, and what did you think of the soldiers?
The average age of the soldiers were between, now I'm just going to guess, 22, 25. They were young men. I was the oldest.
All right.
I was their mother.
What was the average age of the surgical team?
The average age of the surgical, meaning the trauma surgeons and all that, they were in their 40s.
Okay.
They were in their 40s. Mm-hmm.
And how old were you?
When I got out there, I was 49.
49.
Right.
And is that why they called you Momma Bear?
Well, that's part of it. That was part of it. I had to take care of my soldiers.
Yeah.
And no one played with my soldiers. So basically the XO one day said to some of the softs out there, either she'll be a mama or she'll be a bear. Let's try to keep her as Momma Bear.
Oh, that's cute. That's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
That's
no,
great.
I took care of my soldiers. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm sure you did. Now,
Pete, I'm sorry to interrupt. There's a
yes.
couple questions here in the chat.
Sure.
From Brad, he said, how far from the front lines are the facilities you were talking about? Only reachable by helo?
Only reachable by helo. Bagram to Fob Shank was 50 miles. So everything was through helo. We were around more mountainous areas, but where we were at as well, it was the Logar Province. So it was pretty hot. It was pretty hot up there.
The reason why I ask was I'm a Desert Storm veteran, and we found out the hard way that the medical facilities, specifically the surgical units, were too far back. And when the oil clouds came in, the burning oil, helos could not fly. And the only way to get casualties back was ground evacuation through minefields, friendly fire, enemy fire, that really jeopardized the lives of the wounded Marines. And that was one lesson that I took from Desert Storm, was just how reliant we are on air evacuation and how careful the planning must be about where these medical facilities, these forward medical facilities that can do the surgical procedures, have to be carefully planned and positioned. It's a tough one. You have to safeguard the facility, but you have to get it close enough to where the fighting is to get the casualties back within that golden hour or whatever that is now. And the second question I have, Patty, this is very, very interesting for me as an infantryman, but what medical innovations have you seen evolve from the battlefield medicine to the civilian emergency rooms? I know there's ways to stop bleeding from gunshot wounds and other things, the importance of tourniquets. What did you see as a medical practitioner that really we've benefited from warfare from today in our medical?
Well, the biggest thing that I've seen has been the advancement of tourniquets. They're called CATs, and they are unbelievable. As well as blood products. There's been a huge innovation of blood products using shrimp, excuse me, as well as bandaging for stopping hemorrhage. That's where the shrimp comes in, the shrimp shells, because of the iodine that's inside. There's been more innovations since then, such as different types of pain management out in the field. Instead of really gorking them out like we usually do, they have a better chance of not becoming opiate dependent, because that's happened. So we learned a lot from Desert Storm, quite a bit, in fact. There was those lessons learned, as you just pointed out. So the helos, even out in Afghanistan, when we had those horrible sandstorms, they were down. So what are we going to do with our patients? So it was all about lessons learned.
Wow. Sean, any more questions?
Nothing in the chat right now. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Momma Bear. August 7th, 2013. Your life changed forever. Describe that day and your injuries.
Well, first of all, if anyone's a Purple Heart recipient, August 7th is Purple Heart Day.
Ah.
So that was part of their plan as well, Purple Heart. So basically the night before, we had actually 3 nights straight of missions coming in. So we were back to back in that forward surgical team area. The following morning, it finally subsided, but every time we would be in our area and had casualties, we would have an AAR. I'm sure everyone knows what that means. After action review. What was done, what we could do better, and what we looked as bad. We always try to improve every single time. So that morning, went in at 0800 to do our AAR. It was a beautiful day, by the way. And our generators actually worked that night when we went to bed, because it was 113 that night. And it finally worked. Then what happened was, after we finished our AAR, I forgot something in my tent. We lived in tents. We were the last FST to live in tents. So Went back, beautiful morning. As I'm walking back, I hear something. But before I could understand what it was, a concussive wave had just hit, picked me up, and I felt like there was hands around me, let's say, squeezed everything out of me, kind of pushed back and then threw me. In front of me was the Alaskan walls, those big 12-foot or more walls of cement. I was hit onto that cement wall. I don't remember anything after that. The only thing I could remember was on the helicopter, waking up, asking what had happened. And as I looked over, the bay doors were open as we were leaving, and we were still being RPG'd, and there was some fighting out there. The whole place was gone. Yeah.
All right. You, Todd, you want to show that photo of the explosion?
That's the explosion. That was 2 miles away from the fob, inside the fob. The fob was pretty big. It carried 7,000 soldiers. So there it is. It was a water truck that had been captured by the Taliban about 3 months prior. The two drivers who brought in the water for us were beheaded, and they found them. And then it wasn't if we were going to get hit, it was when. You could sense it. We could sense it at the end. And there it is. There's the explosion. And we could find that people found parts of that truck almost 3 miles out. And as you can see here, this is the back end of where we lived. And the concussive wave blew that out. Literally blew all of that out. So it was a bad hit, obviously.
That water truck was packed with 3,000 pounds of
Correct. 3,000 military grade.
Military grade.
Yeah,
What was the
explosion.
damage there? Wow.
Yeah. So basically it wiped out half of the fob. And there is a YouTube out there that we did find with the Taliban. It's from Al Jazeera. And it shows who the truck driver was that was chained to the wheel. And then, they talked to each other, how they put the explosives in the water tank itself, and when it exploded.
Wow.
And yeah. And the reason why we knew it was when, because we had a lot of Afghan men coming in with male children being shot in the head.
Really?
They're getting intel where we were at. And basically they figured if we can wipe out medical, we can wipe out that whole fob in missions. Well, they were wrong.
Were there fatalities? Any fatalities?
Actually, there was only one fatality. And it was, unfortunately, it was not a soldier, but it was a civilian who worked for Raytheon. It was a contractor coming through, going to Bagram. He was closest to the first concussive.
How many of the medical staff were wounded?
Well, I was the worst. Out of the other 12, most of them received TBIs, but they kept going. I was the only one medevaced out, but my shoulders and hips were also dislocated. So obviously I couldn't move. And at first everyone thought I had fractured my hip. And of course, with all the chaos, by the time they received everything up in headquarters there at Bagram, they said that I had amputations, I had this, I had that. But when they finally brought me in, obviously I didn't, thank goodness.
All right, describe your treatment at Bagram.
It was great. basically, when I got there, I was in the ER, and I still had my uniform on. No one had cut it off, but I started waking up, and one of the nurses said, well, we need to cut off everything in order to see if there were any other injuries. And I basically wasn't a lady about it. And I said to them not to cut my uniform off because that's all I had. That's all I had. So the only thing they cut off was my t-shirt and anything underneath. But I was quickly put into a CT scan. This is where they found, anything that was, abnormal. And they did that to everybody. There was actually 65 people who came through medevac that day.
Wow.
And finally, they decided that there were no, life-threatening injuries, except for, looking like this and my legs looking like that. But they finally put that back together as much as possible. And I then was put into a recovery area for a while.
Now, you had traumatic brain injury too.
Yes, moderate traumatic brain injury because of hitting the wall. So that wasn't fun. It just wasn't fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Now, for proper recovery, you were destined for that major medical facility in Germany.
Right. I was launch dual, correct.
Yeah.
That's the third level of care every
Okay.
soldier gets.
Well, that's where you were supposed to go. What happened?
Well, being a nurse, I think Tommy can attest to this. Being a nurse, we're hardheads. We got to take care of our boys. So basically, I couldn't hear. I had the tinnitus, that ringing. So I would read lips. I had a bad headache all the time. I would have nosebleeds. So I would shove stuff up my nose. And then the day the nurse came to me and said, well, we're ready to get you packaged to go to launch dual. I looked at her and I said, there's no reason for me to go to launch dual. I'm perfectly fine. She asked me if I had any headaches, and I said, nope, headache is gone. How about the ringing in your ears? Well, when they start pointing things, of course, you're going to know what they're doing. So I said, no, the ringing is gone. And I said, I still have this, and I can now move a little bit more, and I can walk. So she talked to the doctor, and the doctor knew me pretty well as well. And I only had 30 days left after all of that. And I said, I need to go back. And so they cleared me. So I went back.
So, Patty, you lied to get back to your base.
Well, I fibbed.
Oh, okay, that's the misinformation. Is that?
Yeah, disinformation. I fibbed.
Yeah,
But my unit members took care of me. They did not allow me to lift anything, do anything except for manage. I could do that a little bit. My speech at the time went a little wonky. So being so close, we knew exactly what we were thinking. So it did help quite a bit. It was a well-oiled machine.
very good. Very
Yeah.
good. Tell us just a little bit about coming home and what you did after that.
Okay. So after I came home, as you already heard, I did not return back to Emory Hospital. We had 3 months to recover as well. So during that time, physical therapy, a lot of speech therapy. And today I now have, it's called anemonic aphasia, where I can look at a glass, know what it is, but I can't tell you verbally, this is a glass.
Wow.
Especially if I'm a little stressed out or I have anxiety or something's going on. So I've been working very hard on that. I'm not stressed, as you can see now, but once in a while, I'll just kind of think it out and then do it. It's about therapy.
I remember when I had you at the Atlanta World War II roundtable to speak, you, I asked you if you wanted to lead in God Bless America, and you said no, that you may forget the words.
That's why.
Yeah, that's why.
That's why.
Well, bless your heart. All right. Mama Bear, tell us about your Purple Heart.
Oh my goodness. If it wasn't
Where was your Purple Heart, Mama Bear?
all right, let's put it this way. Medical's a little different. All right. And reserves is a little different. So I was reservist, then into an active duty. Active duty does not look upon reservists in a very great light. So let's put that into context. God forbid anyone in the reserves get any medals or anything else. So there's your context. So after I came home, I received an email from a specialist there at Bagram asking me if I was there during a certain time and to verify my name, which I did. I'm going, what's going on? She had found not just one certificate of a Purple Heart, she found 16 of them in a desk drawer. And now I had come home in September, and this was December, January timeframe. I was quite upset. And the DCNO at the time there at Bagram was also there when I was there. So he knew about what had happened. So I emailed him saying, this is what happened. Now my filters were gone. I wasn't a lady.
Oh, no.
And I basically, and he was a colonel. I was, only a major. And my email to the colonel was, someone at Bagram found my Purple Heart. Do I need to buy my own medal? And then after that, there's other stuff, which I will not divulge. So I received an email back from the colonel. He was livid. Today, by the way, he's a brigadier general, and he is the chief Army Nurse Corps person. So he sent me my certificate with my orders, along with a medal from Bagram. So after I received all this, I got a hold of Tommy Clack.
Hey, Tommy.
What to do. He said, let's do this. We need to do your DD 215. How do you do that, Tommy? And he helped me out all the way to the point of doing the Wall of Heroes presentation as well. So it was Tommy who helped to bring all this to light.
I remember that ceremony. It was beautiful.
Oh, it was.
It was, and you were too, Miss Patty. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
So that's where you got your Purple Heart, through Mr. Tommy Clack at the Walk of Heroes.
As a recognition. Yes, that was the time. Right. And the officer who gave me that Purple Heart was a colonel there in Augusta, Georgia, who now I was part of his unit. He had never met me until that day.
Wow.
Yep.
All right. You are now a lieutenant colonel.
Right.
Tell us about your career after Afghanistan and your upcoming retirement. My goodness, what are you going to do?
Well, after that Purple Heart, I stayed in that unit there in Augusta, Georgia, until my husband and I decided to move here to New Mexico to retire. And so found the medical support unit here, the 7251st, and became commander of that, even though I came in under the hopes to be under the radar and retire. Well, that didn't work out. So I became a commander 3 years, then finally did a change of command a year and a half ago, still in the unit, because I didn't want to pursue anymore. I figured I've had enough command positions, no more. But unfortunately now, and I haven't told you this, Pete, but I will be going on mobilization again. And they're extending my retirement date another extra month. So I will now be retiring in November of 2023.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right. So Miss Patty, what are you going to do with yourself after retirement?
Sleep. No, after everything is said and done, I do want to go into some veteran associations. I just haven't had time, obviously, to do this now. But I'm also going to be doing a lot for, it's called MIBH, and it's out of Aurora, Colorado, and it's under the Gary Sinise Foundation.
Oh.
And it's basically for TBI and PTSD, and be part of that. I went through the program not too long ago, and it was fantastic. This is where they actually caught the type of aphasia that I have, and it just opened the door. I thought for a while, though, I was thinking dementia, because I kept forgetting things, not able to talk. And with their therapy as well, and referrals and resources here in Albuquerque has helped. So yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Great.
That's it.
Hey, Sean, you want to go through those photos and let Patty tell us what they are?
Sure. Hold on one sec. Get them pulled up here. Hold on, please. I'm way at the end of it. Thanks for your patience. And here we are.
Oh,
What's
okay.
there, Patty?
There I am. Boy, I lost 40 pounds during that deployment. So as you can see here, I'm putting duct tape on the generator part and air conditioner. And that was the day before we got hit.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, duct tape. Everybody, you didn't use duct tape in surgery, did you?
No.
Okay. Oh, you had to think about that.
Well, sometimes we would run out of tape.
Yeah.
So out there, we couldn't close wounds because of infection.
Oh.
Okay. So we would have to tape and put different things in order to keep everything closed, but still open.
Wow.
So yeah. So as you can notice, the duct tape was from my NCO, who was also female. She was quite girly, and here you go.
All right. I see you're wearing your 6-shooter too.
Had to.
What is-
Here's our medevacs. So everyone's seen them, I am sure. There's one that will put the patients in, and the other is the gunship. They never went alone. So they were always going. It was never turned off, especially if it was some hot situation going on out there. So we would get the patients, get them all packaged up, and out the door they went, and that was it.
Sure. All right, Sean. Oh, there you go.
There I am. Here is an Afghan parent with his daughter. Now here is in the Jordanian tent. We also had to collaborate with the Jordanians. Jordanians only touched the population there. They did not touch soldiers. I caught one day even touching the boot, and I basically just said, "You're out of my tent." That was not part of the agreement. So here, this man is 50 years old, by the way. He had 13 children. I'll emphasize had. He is a nomad goat herder. This is his last child. And basically she was out herding some of the goats, and she was shot at. And while we were doing our ATLS trauma evaluation, we found the bullet, took it out, and then had to put her there in the Jordanian tent because obviously we couldn't take her up to Bagram. We did not take care of the population like that. So I would have to check in every day, change her dressings, all that good stuff. And then they finally left. They finally left after a week and a half, but never saw them again.
Never saw her again.
No.
Where was she wounded?
In the abdomen.
Oh.
She was wounded in the abdomen. Yeah.
Do you think that child looked upon you as something maybe she's never seen before?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you notice, she's holding on to her dad.
Yeah. But I see her eyes looking at you.
It's the uniform and the short hair.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. All right, Sean, what else we got?
So
Okay.
that's my operating room. So those are the OR beds. So basically we would put the stretcher on top where you see the little hook there between the two bars. And then underneath is where spillage would take place,
Okay.
or, you know, blood and all that. The blue area there to your very, very right hand corner, that's the cautery machine. Without that, we can't stop bleeding. And
Really?
then the anesthesia machines. Mhm.
Okay. Next one, Sean.
This is after the blast. So luckily, the anesthesia machines have oxygen containers. We were lucky they didn't blow up.
Wow.
So basically, while I was being flown out and after the mass cal got a little bit lowered, everyone that was on that FAB that came to us, let's say all the infantry guys, it was the 173rd, by the way, during that time, they came over and tried to recoup all the medical supplies, meaning soft goods, equipment, everything, in order to pull one back up, which they did in another tent within 4 hours.
Wow.
So basically, FOB Shank was only down 4 hours, and then they were up for business again.
Civilian hospital taking 4 months.
Oh, please.
All right,
Brad.
so
Brad has his hand up.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. You know, in the previous pictures, Patty, and the damage from the blast and the number of RPGs that you took on a regular basis, I was surprised maybe the tents weren't hardened a little more. I didn't see them sandbagged to an appropriate height that may have protected some of the occupants. Was there a reason why the tents weren't hardened or more precautions weren't taken against indirect fire?
Well, with due respect, I hate to say this, but this was a Army compound. And it takes paperwork. It takes contractors. And unfortunately, GS employees are a pain in the ass out there. Pardon my French. They didn't give us what we needed unless we did work orders and did favors. Whereas for the Marines, I'm going to be very transparent. The Marines have their crap together. They take care of each other.
Wow.
And that's all I can say about that.
Very good.
Yeah, we didn't have sandbags. In fact, during operations, we could hear missions out there, and we had a few bullets coming through while we were doing surgeries.
Jeez.
So there you go. Yeah.
That's very enlightening, and there's lessons to be learned each and every time.
Right. So after we left, then all the walls went up. All the sandbags went up. Yeah. Lessons learned.
Yeah. Any more photos shown?
I got two here. Hold on.
Yep, there's me. So there was one person being taken care of on the OR bed. And on the wall there in front is all the stitches. That's all we had. So our surgeons that came through were only 90-day wonders. So they came from the civilian world where they could pretty much use all the supplies and then ask for more. So we had to retrain the mind think of you need to be careful with supplies or we are not going to have any in case there's a mass cow. So it was a learning curve for them. They finally got it after the third or fourth week. We only had so many instrumentation trays as well, because we don't have that capability out there out in the field. And behind me, as you can see, it's called the count board. This is also true for the civilian world, to ensure that there were no unnecessary sponges within the cavities, as well as any instruments and needles. So we always counted everything and ensured that our soldiers did not have any other items within their bodies.
Wow.
Yeah.
Got one more, Sean. Aha.
So here I am with terrible PPE on my face, but this is a Jordanian tech. Great guy. He was like a sponge, trying to learn everything he could. So he was there the first few weeks we were there, and then they did their rotations. But as you can see, our faces are rosy. It was hot in there. Of course, adrenaline always up and going.
Any more photos shown?
I don't think any more photos, but Greg, you had something here in the chat. Did you just want to chime in?
Yes, I was wondering, I had heard this in Baghdad, actually, that the priority for treatment in a mass casualty incident, a bombing or something like that, was to take the patients who needed the most help, irregardless of whether or not they were US soldiers or whether or not they were local civilians who had been in the bombing. In other words, I know enough about the medical situation. It's called triage.
Correct.
You put people in 3 categories. They're not going to make it. They're going to make it. These people are in the middle. Was the triage procedure set up in such a way that a US soldier who could have gotten care was actually not cared for because a civilian was more likely to survive with care? I'm just curious.
Correct.
Okay, thank
So
you.
it is priority on how badly wounded they are. That is in doctrine, and we would fight it once in a while, but that was part of the ROE, rules of engagement, as well. So we had to take care of those who needed care first. We had situations where we would have an EPW who shot a soldier to come in at the same time into the ATLS, because ATLS had 4 stations. And if we had a mass cal come in, everybody would come in, because they would pick up as well these EPWs, and they'd be right next to that soldier. Talk about trying to keep your medical professionality intact. Who do we go in first in the OR? Well, the worst one. It was rough out there.
I think that was one of the questions coming at us was, did you treat enemy soldiers? And you did.
We did all the time. And to tell you the truth, most of these enemy soldiers were so high on, it's called KUT, K-U-T. It's like a poppy opioid. They would put it in between their gums and cheek, and chew that to keep them going. So the majority of the time they'd come in, they would be so high, it was unbelievable.
Wow.
Did they know what was going on?
Some did, some didn't. Now, we did have interpreters as well in the FST, so they could interpret back and forth. We would ask the interpreter to let the patient know this is what we're going to do, to the point of, what are you allergic to? Well, most of those folks never had medical care, so how would they know what they were allergic to? But we had to go through that rigmarole as well. So that was part of the process. We had to take care of them. Mhm.
Did any of the enemy soldiers that you treated even act like they were appreciative of the care?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay.
What did you do with them once they were healed, or where did you?
Well, dependent on who they were, now, if they were a high value, we would have to take care of them, and then they would be put in the, we had a prison on the FOB. We would put them there, and then most of the time, if they were high value though, we also had special forces and the Rangers embedded with us as well. So they would take that prisoner up to Bagram, and then it was called Craig Hospital there in Bagram, and they would be treated there and then interrogated. Now, if it was just an ordinary Afghan citizen that had gotten hurt, then the Afghan hospitals would come in, these little trucks would come in, and we would put them in there. Now, if they were still intubated, unfortunately, once they got into the Afghan hospital, they would have to give us back our ventilators, which were small. And the majority of the time after we would leave, the story would be they would just put him in a corner and let them die.
Jeez.
And if there were children who were amputees or, anything that could not provide for the hospital, for their family, most of the time they were killed as well by the family. After we do everything for them, and then gone. So yeah, it was aggravating there for a little while, but my concern was more for the soldiers. It was. We had great Afghan people there too, though. Don't take me wrong. We had some really good folks out there who helped us.
All
It
in
seems
all, Patty,
it's if I may, Pete, that story, it makes me think that you go into the profession of trying to help people,
Right.
and you have that's what you want, is you have a passion for doing. I think it's innate. Anybody who goes into the health profession it's like crazy to me. It's like you got to have really tough skin to do it. But my question is that seems to me like there was a complete disregard for human life over there, and that's like the exact opposite of who you are. And how do you work with that in your own mind, that there's this want to care, but there's also this other side of humanity that just these people can die?
That's a great question. That is a great question. And the only way I can answer that is I took care of soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
That was my shining stars.
okay.
And then when I would hear about all the work we had done to save that Afghan, and then there are people doing that to them, the only thing I could think out loud would be, well, it's their culture. We have to be cultural sensitive, and we must respect that.
Okay.
Now, coming home obviously played on the psyche, but I had to go back to that statement. It's their culture, and we have to accept that. That's all we can do.
Yeah, Patty, overall, give me your impression of the Afghans, and really, do you think it was all worth it?
All right, the PC is, that was my mission. I was there to take care of our soldiers.
Okay.
That was my mission. I was asked many times, why are we there? I do not know. I have an idea, but I'll keep that to myself. But I really do not know why we were there. Only that many young lives were taken away from us. And then after we have been withdrawn from Afghanistan, that's when it hurt.
Yeah. I think it hurt a lot of people, a lot of soldiers.
It hurt 'em.
Especially the way that it happened. Okay. I think we should have kept Bagram, but that's political. So let's not get into that area. You are going to wrap up in about a year, a wonderful, wonderful career. Any regrets?
You know, being in the military is like living with a dysfunctional family. You love it and you hate it at the same time. So is there some regrets? There could be, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't have met such great friends. I wouldn't have had that learning curve of excellence if I stayed in the civilian world. No,
Okay.
I wouldn't change it for the world.
I just saw a post there said, I felt the same way about our withdrawal from Vietnam, comparing it to Afghanistan. In a way, I understand that. I think we all do. Every war veteran out there. Sean, any more questions for this wonderful lady?
We had someone chime in on YouTube, John Mitchell, who said, "Gotta love her." So a bit of kudos, but no question.
Appreciate
Hey,
that.
Vis, do you have anything to ask?
He did not. He just wanted to chime in and said he said, "Gotta love her." So
Yeah.
thank you, John Mitchell.
Hi, Momma Bear. This is Vis. Notice I'm giving you a standing ovation. Thank you for keeping the history alive. Now, I was medically evacuated from Iraq through Balad to Landstuhl to Walter Reed, and I can attest that, yes, you, the medical staff, are taking care of the troops. That's for sure. So again, thanks for keeping the history alive. Best of everything. Take care.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Appreciate you. Just to let everyone know, from point of contact, from the field, you have that combat medic.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's the first one. He's the first one. Now, if you're in special forces or anything like that, sometimes the physician assistant will be there as well. But once they're there, that soldier does not have any hands off of anyone until they come here to the United States, such as Walter Reed. So it's from all these levels, there is a hand on that soldier every part of the way, every part of the way.
Next question. You mentioned twice the acronyms TBI. What does that mean?
Traumatic brain injury.
Oh, okay.
So basically the brain got hit, depending on how hard. So there's different levels. There's mild, moderate, and severe. Mine was moderate. And there's many different soldiers out there who have one or the other, which is that silent injury.
Yeah.
You can't see it until the soldier starts talking, walking, thinking, or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, TBI is also for football players.
That's true.
Brad?
Yeah, thank you, Patty. This is quite a show tonight, seeing a side of the military medical side that's so very important. Do you ever hear back from any patients that you helped saved? I know that they must be indebted to you for their lives. And this is a little personal, but what sticks with you nowadays from your experiences in war? What wakes you up in the middle of the night and I know you must have gone through a lot and seen a lot, and you probably share a lot of the things that our returning veterans have to go through. And any advice you would give to any veterans that are suffering or feeling or going through these emotions of post warfare? Thank you.
Let's say, for myself, when I came back, sleeping wasn't there because we were always heightened, every little noise. And then we trained ourselves, especially with our Rangers and our softs, particularly. They would go play, softball. That was the code word. We're going out to play softball tonight. And if they weren't home by 3:00, we were getting ready to see something coming in. So that whole year getting tuned up like that, coming home, I wake up every night at 3:00. Still. So it's about what am I going to do to do this? So when you recognize something that is not normal to you, reach out for help. That's one of my biggest things I told my unit. It may be normal for you, but it may be not normal for the household. So there's something going on. Reach out and find out. So that was one of the biggest things. But it's communication. Communication. I didn't go to the VA thinking I was okay when I got home because I didn't want to take a slot from some other soldier coming in. Has anyone ever felt that way?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I was wrong.
Oh.
So when someone says, no, I better not because it's going to take, blah, 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 tell them, no, you need to go in to be looked at. And if everything's okay, great. The pride, right? Oh, we all have that pride. Nothing's wrong with me. Well, guess what? Something is wrong. Go out there, reach out, communicate, be transparent. Because I always say to everybody, even to the nurses today, no one else is going to take care of you but who? You. And then light bulb goes off.
Oh, that is some great advice. Great advice. Hey, I don't know if you know this, but when I got with the VA after I retired at the age of 62, okay, they diagnosed me with PTSD, and I did not know they did that for 12 years. Nobody told me. So, yeah.
The resources are out there now, gang.
Yeah.
They're there. We now know what to look for. And you Vietnam guys, let's face it, you might have some TBIs as well. The resources are out there. You may not know it.
Patty, this has been wonderful. I have never enjoyed something so much. Sean, any more questions from anyone out there?
I don't see any in the chat here. And if anybody'd like to chime in, you're welcome to. But otherwise, no, I don't see anything.
Is Tommy Clack still with us?
I don't see him in the room right now.
Okay. All right.
He's
Rick,
a busy man, Pete. Busy man.
Oh, from Rick to everyone, he's interested in the objects in the background.
Of your house.
All right. I live in Albuquerque. Well, I live in Corrales, New Mexico. And yes, it is a state in the United States. A lot of people still don't know that New Mexico is part of the great 50 states. So my home is adobe, and I live among reservations. And so I'm really into the culture here. So behind me are kachinas. These are dancing warriors. And these kachinas come from the Hopi tribe here in New Mexico. So these are warriors, ready for fight, ready for feast, ready for powwow. So that's what that is. And yeah, that's what those figures are. They're not facing you
Yeah.
today, though.
Before the program, you were talking about the Indian reservations there. Tell the folks how many tribes are in New Mexico.
There are 84 tribes in New Mexico. 84. So the biggest ones, as I told Pete and Sean, were the Navajo and the Zuni. And then after that, there's other areas. Yeah, quite cultural out here. Great food. And the balloon fiesta.
The what fiesta?
Balloon fiesta.
Oh, yeah.
Every October, over 600 balloons take off.
How many land?
All of them. So that's why we came out here to New Mexico.
Oh, man.
It's the nice environment here.
All right, let's see. I thought you would like to get away from the hot weather.
You know, I know. It actually almost looks like Afghanistan out here, but with a little bit more shrubbery.
Oh, well, while we're on that, did you go through the winter season and the summer season in Afghanistan?
I did. The winter season, we had snow and it went below -20 once in a while.
Really?
Yep. And then in the summer, it went over 120.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
Very
Now,
austere.
the winter time's not considered the fighting season, right?
Correct. So in the
What is
winter
fighting
time,
season?
well, the only injuries we did see, though, because we still had missions out there, would be hypothermia, and of course slipping and sliding and breaking bones. Because once it freezes out there, oh my goodness, you hit, it is hard. It's hard out there. Mhm.
What months were the fighting season?
The fighting season started in May, in the springtime. As soon as it thawed out, boy, did they come out. And even the head Taliban up there in the Logar region did say to a lot of the senior leadership that be ready, we'll be out in spring.
Huh.
They told us.
Wow. What a war.
It was interesting.
I bet it was. All right. Anything else out there, Sean?
No, I don't see anything. It's been wonderful tonight.
Great program. Patty, I guess we'll shut it off. Patty, thank you so much for this. I was thrilled to meet you and also thrilled to write your story. Boy, do you have a story to tell. From Bill to everyone, thank you. Okay. And from me, thank you so much. Love you to death. Take care. And you have a wonderful retirement. You have earned it.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for the great questions. And of course, thank you to the sponsors as well.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Appreciate
Thank you
that.
so much. You guys all have a wonderful night. We will see
Good
you
night, everybody.
next week on
Great show.
Tuesday. Be in person.
Be safe.